Oh, watch out now. Hey, friends, welcome to the show. This is really cool because this is the start of Season 3. This is Episode 1 of Season 3, even though we're like Episode 400 and whatever. That first season was a long one, but this new season I'm really excited to bring to you, and it's something brand new, well, not brand new to my life, but the mission statement and what it means is brand new to this podcast and really something I'm just launching in my life. So this whole living forward concept. The concept of living forward is something that right now, as if you're listening to this in current day time, the coronavirus is happening, kind of on a quarantine, kind of hanging out in our houses and hopefully spending quality time with our families and hopefully being productive. I pray that for you. I hope that's happening in your life. I hope you find a silver lining in this situation where in a moment where the world seems to have shut down to a certain extent, we can move forward much faster if we stay focused because we don't have to go do so many things. It's a blessing for some people and a curse for other people. So I'm not trying to put it on as a good situation, but I'm trying to say if you have the opportunity to make a positive impact out of what's going on right now in the world, move forward, live forward, take advantage of it. You've all heard the saying, I'm sure, if you listen to this podcast and you have the kind of mindset of the person who would be interested in the content of this podcast, the idea of if you're not moving forward, you're falling backwards. If you're not growing, you're dying. You can't stand still in life. You either move forward or you go backward. Whether that's living or dying or progressing or degressing, that's just how life is. So the idea of the podcast now is to bring positivity to the world, as always, to highlight people's superpowers, what makes them super powerful, but now just to focus on how do we live forward, how do we move forward constantly, not just in business, because the forward-thinking idea can be just applied to business, and that's a short-sighted way of looking at it. It should be applied to every facet of your life. How are you always moving forward in your personal life, in your business life? How are you looking forward in your personal development, in your spirituality, in your family, with your friends, with your wife, with your husband, with your kids, with your, whoever it might be, with yourself, right? And I think that's the biggest one. If you go to yourself first, everything else can fall into line. So hopefully you're moving your life forward. And, I like the idea, and I think this is what's going to happen with this podcast. We continue to move forward, and we continue to have new seasons. The seasons are going to stack on top of each other to collect ideas as we go. So the first 400 or whatever episodes, however many there were, those are Season 1. Those were like maybe the test run as I'm feeling this thing out. Season 2 is all about creating these superheroes, these superpowers that we have. And the guy that I have on the podcast today, Joey DiGangi, man, it is amazing to talk to him, to talk about somebody who has found his superpowers, but also is living forward, because once you find the superpowers, and if you're in the search of your own superpower, it's going to force you forward in life, because it's a positive life force that helps you to create a better human within yourself. And I think that's just a wonderful thing. So that's why I do this, and that's why I'm so happy that I have more time to bring more episodes to you and to create more content, because that's what I personally need to do. That's what's in my heart and my soul. I tell myself all the time, I'm going to do more of these episodes. Now I am going to be doing more of them, and I'm so happy to have you a part of this if you're listening right now. I'm going to quit rambling, though. Just remember, you have about 80,000 thoughts per day. 95% or more are the same thoughts every single day. How can you grow? How can you get better? How can you change? You have to change the quality and the content of those thoughts, and you have to be aware first before you change the quality and the content. So keep that in your noggin as you're going about your day, doing whatever that you're doing. If you're feeling a lot of negativity or fear right now within the world, keep that thought in your head. Keep that idea in your head, okay? Are these good thoughts? Because those thoughts are going to all compile together to create a basic concept for your life. And actually, I'm writing down right now that I need to do a podcast about basic concepts and about this little thing called concept therapy also, which might sound kind of woo-woo, kind of cultish just in the name of it. But it's something that I've really enjoyed lately. And I think this whole basic concept idea for our life is huge. So be looking for that on a new episode coming up. But if you listen to this podcast, if you like what we talk about on this podcast, then please subscribe, give a review, whatever platform you're on, give it a rating, leave me a comment on social media. It would mean so much to me. It would mean so much if you would do that, and I really genuinely just would appreciate that from the bottom of my heart, okay? Because I'm trying to spread positivity, and I'm trying to spread good messages from amazing people. That's what this thing is all about. So, and if you ever have a chance to talk to me, if you ever want to talk to me, I'm super easy to get a hold of, and I am more than happy to chop it up with anybody, have a meaningful conversation, and hopefully add value to your life. Hopefully I can get some out of it too. And if you have a food allergy, okay, if you have any issues with that part of your life, if that's something you struggle with, this episode is going to rock your world. Joey DiGangi, before we dive in, he's going to talk about it, but he has this company, AssureTech, okay? So AssureTech has a brand new product he's about to launch, or depending on when you listen to this, has launched, called the Epi-Center App. And this app, I'm just going to read you the tag right here, okay? We believe with the Epi-Center App in making food allergies easier to manage, whether facing an emergency situation or day-to-day issues like finding safe to eat food or getting support from the community. The Epi-Center App is designed to help you navigate the different and complex aspects of life with food allergies, whether you're in your own country or traveling abroad. And you can check this out right now at Epi-Center, Epi-Center-App.com, Epi-Center-App.com. The reason this was created, because the guy on this podcast had a serious allergic reaction in a foreign country, working with a guy who was helping him design an app for food allergies. Talk about serendipity. It's real in this world. It's a real thing. Let's get into it. Let's go. I think I'm out of breath at this point.
This is Rob Z Radio.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the podcast. Rob Z with you. This is an exciting new frontier for this podcast, because this is going to be the first episode that launches us into this new idea of moving forward, of forward-thinking ideas, and especially for central Pennsylvania, depending on where you're listening to this around the world. The idea is that, at this point in time, and really at any point in time in human history, the best move is to always be moving forward with forward-thinking ideas and forward-thinking people, because that's the only way we're going to get better, and we're going to be able to survive and make things happen in the world. And that's why I'm super excited to have Joey DiGangi right now on the podcast with AssureTech. Joey, how's it going, man?
It's going well, Rob. How are you?
Fantastic. I'm really glad that I got you on here. You and I met. How long was that ago? At a networking meeting.
Just about a year now.
About a year ago, and you had just gotten back from Taiwan. You had an allergic reaction while you were there that inspired you to create this product, AssureTech. Just talk about, I guess, as we dive into this, what you're doing right now, what you're about to launch, and what has the process been for you to get to this point? Because just give them like an overview, and then we'll dive into bits and pieces of it.
Okay, sure. So my whole life, I've had a life-threatening peanut and tree nut food allergy. And when I was a junior in college, I had the idea I wanted to start a company that would develop new technology to help people with that condition. So that was kind of what started everything off. And along the way, I graduated and got a job in Taiwan. And so while I was in Taiwan, I had a life-threatening reaction, had to be sent to the hospital as a result of peanuts getting accidentally mixed in with the food that I was eating. A big part of the problem was failure to properly translate the condition. So that's what kind of sparked it. I realized how I had never been out of the country before until I took the job in Taiwan. So I really knew nothing about international travel, and realized just how much support I needed in that moment. I was lucky enough, the team at KDM Mobile, a couple of my team members actually took the day off, went in, translated for me, really took care of me. But I had kind of like the sobering moment of like, what would I do without that support? And that's what inspired the application. So I started teaching myself how to build a mobile app that would be able to help someone translate their food allergy, find a hospital during an emergency, display a message saying, please help me, I'm having an allergic reaction. I need to find medical attention right now. And so it'll display that message, and we just kind of built on it from there.
And the app is incredible. And, from talking to you about a year ago until now, you guys are just about, as this airs, you should be just about to launch or have launched the actual app for people around the world to use. And we're going to dive into the app and all of its functions and all of its features. But I really think that your story in itself is super interesting and really a great example of how one thing leads to another. And you can never in life, that the straight line, the clear path that you think you're going to have never happens that way. There's always a bunch of different things that come into play that help you to achieve what you're trying to achieve. So this app and the idea that you were in Taiwan all came from the fact that you're still going to school at Juniata College in Huntington, Pennsylvania. But while you were there, you had a professor. That professor owned a software company. Is that right, in Taiwan?
Yeah, he's one of 4 co-founders at KDM Mobile, and he's the vice president of marketing and global strategy there.
Very
and so
cool.
he, as I was graduating, recruited me to go work in Taiwan, and now I'm one of the full-time members of the U.S. office here in Huntington.
How crazy is that? So while you're in college, going to school, and you have a professor who runs the software company, or is a part of the software company, KDM Mobile, you end up going over there to work and getting a full-time job. So that in itself is pretty incredible, that you had this full-time job, something that a lot of kids in college would be dying for, that would dream of having that sort of opportunity. And how did that all happen? I want to touch on that because, usually, especially I go back to myself being in college, I was just kind of like coasting through, just trying to get by, and really wasn't putting that much effort into what I was doing. I went to school for broadcasting communications, which I guess obviously paid off, but I feel like I did not take full advantage of my college experience. So I want to ask you the question, first off, what would you say to a student who was in a class and the opportunities there might be right in front of your face, just like for you, that opportunity, and every other student in your class or in the profession you were in, and the major you were in, the opportunities were there for them, but you were the one who capitalized on it. Did anybody else who was with you in your class in that experience get the opportunity that you have right now?
Yeah, actually, one other student went to Taiwan with me at that point. Name was Chris Heron. He also had a entrepreneurial startup going on at that point as well, and was recruited to come too. He's actually in Taiwan still right now, and since that point now, Wei Chung, the professor, and I have been sending more students over to Taiwan. We're kind of creating that pipeline now, so hoping to really open the doors, following that experience I had over there.
Yeah, man, that is so cool. So how did you build that relationship? What would you say to a college kid? I mean, because this opportunity could be right under your nose and you would never even know it or take the opportunity and dive into it. So what would you say to somebody who could be in a similar situation like you? Why do you think you and your friend, who also was your classmate, were so special that you guys got that opportunity?
So I think what really led to that opportunity was that we kind of had that initiative to go and start our own businesses. Now, we both started very different types of companies, but I think just showing that, the commitment to pursue that idea and really just the entrepreneurial spirit, I think, was a big piece of what got us that opportunity. And any student that's, considering starting a business or looking for like something that really sets them apart. I mean, college is such a great time because presumably you don't have family, you don't have these huge financial obligations. Like if you're going to start a business at any point in your life, I think that's really the time just to kind of see if it's something you're interested in. Now the idea, may or may not grow into something more afterwards, but just kind of getting that really hands-on business learning experience. I think that's the time and place to do it.
No doubt, man. I couldn't agree more. And looking back on my own life, I wish I would have had more of that mindset at that point in time, because that opportunity is so huge, and that's the small piece of your life where you saw the opportunity, you met the right person, and it popped up and happened for you, and now you've got that full-time gig. That are you graduating from school, or when are you done in school?
So I graduated my my bachelor's degree in 2018,
Okay.
and that's when I went to Taiwan. And now I'm back doing my MBA at Junior College in international business, kind of in tandem with the career at KDAN and the career as an entrepreneur.
Dude, so cool, so inspirational. And so you head over to Taiwan. You've had this huge opportunity. And how did that feel, first of all, to be in that position? What did that feel like for you? What were your apprehensions to go over to Taiwan to take on this big opportunity? You know, this is a lot for. How old were you at the time?
I was 22.
So what did that feel like at that time? I mean, I'm sure a lot of your friends could only dream of having something like that happen to them, and might not even, a lot of us fall into the situation where we have imposter syndrome, and I've had this problem in my life as well, where you have opportunities and you almost feel like you don't deserve them, like you're not at that level where you could take advantage of them, and things pass you by. What led you to that point where you're like, you know what, I can do this. I can go to Taiwan. I can take on this job opportunity. This is, you're working with some real professionals, and this is huge for you. So what was that whole process like?
It was overwhelming. Certainly getting all of those opportunities coming my way all at once. It was definitely scary and made more complicated by the fact that, again, I had never been out of the country. This was really the start of my adult life, let alone an international life. So I didn't know if I was up for the challenge. What kind of got me over the hill on it was I figured that an opportunity like this would never come my way again. I mean, you never get the chance to live and work abroad and have a great position in a really exciting company doing all the things that you're passionate about. Even if you're not 100% convinced you're ready, at least I was convinced that this was only going to happen once. So I just said, okay, let's go and see what happens. And by the same token, I know I had good support there. Certainly Professor Wei Chung, and then the colleagues that he had gotten me in touch with over there ahead of time. So I knew there was going to be some support system there too. So that helped a lot also.
I'd imagine, knowing you have, and you're going also with somebody else that you knew in your class. So you guys are both going over together. That would have eased the stress a little bit, but still, it's a big risk. Now you're over there, you're doing this. Whenever you went over there, what was the point of you going there? Whenever you went to Taiwan, did you know you were getting a job? Were you already working with them, or was this kind of like an introductory period where they wanted to try to get you on board and see if you were the right fit?
No, so I knew it was a job at this point. Actually, the way that the opportunity was presented to me was, here we're going to be starting a U.S. headquarters, kind of like a physical office space, since a lot of the company's businesses involves people from the United States. We want to start right here in Huntington. On one hand, it's going to be a heavy marketing job, which I had the background in. But because this is kind of like the first physical presence for this company, it's also going to be very much of a startup all at the same time, at least in the United States. And I was like, those are both things I'm very comfortable with, both things I'm very interested in. And then, he explained, first, we'd like you to go to Taiwan for 9 months to get very familiar, because the company at that time, it had about 100 people. It's a little bit bigger than that now. So go there, get familiar with the team, make sure that we can work in tandem when you come back, so we can keep things going here in the United States. And so that was kind of how the opportunity was presented. I knew it was going to be for a fixed period over there.
What was that experience like for you over there? What was how well did you assimilate? How well did you fit in? Did it feel like super foreign to you? Was it uncomfortable, or how did that all happen? Because I know for myself, every day would have been this brand new experience. Every day would have popped up all these brand new questions and posed all these issues and problems. What was that like for you?
Yeah, it was definitely very different. I mean, everything from not even knowing what to do completely in an airport was a new experience for me. So everything was out of my comfort zone. Two of the smart decisions I think I made going in. The first one was to not do too much research on Taiwan. For me, I think that was a smart decision, because I didn't want to go in there with any expectations of what was going to be there, because as soon as something didn't meet my expectations, good or bad, as soon as it just started to feel different, I knew it would kind of throw me off. So I wanted to go in there very agile, ready to pivot no matter what happened. So I think that was a smart decision just for my approach. And then I also went in with just a very like open mind, knowing that almost every experience, like you said, was going to be brand new. So just set, kind of like a commitment to say yes to pretty much everything that came my way, whether it was trying food, going to different places, uh, anything that comes up, and work included too. Any assignments or any tasks that came up, take on every single thing that was there because I knew all of it was going to be brand new for me.
Yeah. How long do you think it took you before you felt comfortable?
I'd say probably about a month or so. I think it's a very everybody that we got to meet in the company and in the country as a whole was very friendly, very like excited to share their culture with us and introduce Chris and I to all the different foods, places, events, holidays, even teaching us language here and there. So that I think that made it really easy to get used to it. And then being in the office, I think helped a lot too, because then it's something you have right there and now. You have something to be working on, something to be just comfortable with coming in every day and kind of like moving that forward. So I think having work helps a lot too.
Yeah, something to focus on. What was the biggest culture shock? What was the biggest thing for you that was like just threw you for a loop or threw you off whenever you were there, or something you didn't expect that like surprised you when you were there?
For me, it was being like entirely dependent on other people. With the language barrier was the big thing. I couldn't read anything. I couldn't understand anything. And with that life-threatening food allergy, like I had a big shock, especially when I first got there. I was pretty much just at the mercy of whoever was speaking on my behalf to communicate what I could and couldn't eat. And I just had to kind of like take that on faith that was going to get the right meal delivered to me and not put me in the hospital. So that was tough. That was probably the toughest part.
Obviously, that was the ultimate downfall. That was the one thing that didn't work out.
That's what ended up happening.
But ended up working out in a more amazing way. There's always, it's funny, man. There's always silver lining. There's always like a reason for things to happen. If you wouldn't have been over there, that wouldn't have happened there. You may never have had the idea to build this product that you have. And that's just so crazy that like sometimes the what seemed like the worst things that could possibly happen to us are happening to us for a reason. And for you, that's totally the case.
Yeah, absolutely. When I was kind of like in the hospital and I got the medication, I started just kind of taking note of all the support I was getting. I was like, all right, this needs to be the defining moment for my personal career and, even more so for the company that I'm trying to start. Like this is the best hands-on learning experience, hopefully, that I ever have with dealing with an emergency with food allergies. Take note of everything and then, use that to really drive every decision going forward. How can we help everyone else that ever encounters this?
Yeah.
And that was really, it had a big impact.
Now, before we dive into the whole food allergy, what happened in AssureTech and how that all came to be, I just want to ask one more question about your professor and your boss now, because what do you think it was about you and about your partner or your friend Chris, who was there with you? What do you think it was about you guys that made you different from everybody else? What do you think made you stand out? How did you become, obviously you were on a different level. That's why you were in the position you were in. What do you think it was about you that stood out what's the man's name who hired you? Who was your professor?
Wei Chung Wong.
And what do you think it was about you to him that made you stand out, that set you apart?
I think it was mostly the entrepreneurial spirit that we had. I think one of the things that we got to do, now within KDAN is we use the term entrepreneurial. So someone that has the kind of like that entrepreneurial mindset within the construct of an organization. And so, it's just that approach to problem solving, that approach to finding a way to get stuff done. I think that's a really just good way to approach any type of business related issue. And that's, I think we exhibited that a lot when we were undergraduates.
What did you guys do? Ask a lot of questions, very, very inquisitive with him, or, because I think, I'm trying to give, like, if somebody's listening to this and maybe they're in college, maybe they're in high school or even in a job, because the entrepreneurial thing is that's a real thing. You're inside of a company, but you really are creating something new inside of that company. And I think people feel like sometimes they have to go out on their own. They have to create their own thing. in order to be an entrepreneur, but you can really learn all the steps in the full process inside of a company, make that company even better, and that's going to set you apart from everybody else in that company for you to get a raise or whatever that might be, or for you to eventually venture off and do your own thing. So for you being who you were, what kind of things were you doing differently, or what do you feel like you did differently that you noticed was different from everybody else around you?
Well, I think the early success that my company was having, kind of like the just the drive to kind of like keep pushing it forward. Because like I said, I had started it when I was a junior, and there was a massive market research project that I had to kind of like design and create, and then I got AssureTech was recognized as a top company by Ben Franklin Technology Partners. We got included in their big idea contest. Just like all these different steps along the way of like just trying to will this thing into existence. And so I think that was what I got to do a lot while I was an undergraduate, and fortunately it got noticed by the right people at the right time.
So where did that inspiration come? So AssureTech's already being developed before you even meet this professor and get into this position. Where did that come from? Where do you think that drive for you came from to create this product? Obviously, it came from a pain that you had in your life. Obviously, it came from your own personal allergies. But a lot of people have allergies, and they don't go out and create an app that'll help solve the problem for potentially millions of people in the world. Why do you think you were different in that regard? What drove you to create that?
So it actually came from a class project. I was taking a course. I knew I wanted to get into marketing at this point, and some of the best advice my dad gave me about whatever business area I decided to go into. He said, you're either the problem or the problem solver. And so I figured, if you're getting into marketing, you need to be able to think creative and find solutions. And so because of that reason, I started taking entrepreneurial classes. I didn't expect at that point to go start my own business ever, but I thought if I could learn to think like someone that I would be more effective in whatever role I had to take on. So I'm taking this marketing project, and every single day you're supposed to record, 5 to 10 things in your life that you just wish there was an easier fix to it, or there was some type of solution, whatever. And my problem, one of the biggest ones I have on a regular basis, is dealing with the food allergy. And so the final project was to take one of those pain points and anything else related to it and start to formulate some type of solution. And I had a pretty good idea of what I wanted to do, turned that in as the final project. And I really wanted to see this thing come to life, because I knew, if it was eventually realized, that would be able to help a lot of people like me. And so the professor in the course talked about how the college has its on-campus business incubator, all of these different resources and funding available for students that are starting their own business. And that's kind of what pushed me into it. I said, I'm a college student. My financial obligations are as limited as they're ever going to be at this point in time. I've got all of these people right here, and then I knew that Ben Franklin was there, Startup Allegheny, so all these other local resources kind of like in the region. If it was ever going to happen, it had to be right then and there. So I dove into it.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, man, anybody who's listening to this who's around your age, a little bit older, a little bit younger, like when you have the time and the resources like you did it at the point when you started putting this together, try to really grasp the potential and the importance of taking advantage of that. Because like for me, just personally, like I didn't start my own business until I was 33. So it still is a big transition, because you have like your mind is geared towards the 9 to 5, towards having a boss, and towards the way normal processes work in a regular business corporate atmosphere. So if you can get into that process earlier before you ever have to go through the corporate world or whatever your job might be, you're so much better off, because now you have like a clean slate, a clean framework for how you can build your life and build what you want to do. And obviously you do have a job now. You are working for a company, but like you said, you're an entrepreneur. So you've created something that is yours, but you're also working for somebody else and helping them to make their product even better as well. And you guys can kind of merge those together. I think that's a beautiful thing, and that's like a rare opportunity. But I don't think that it's impossible. I think it's possible for anybody who's listening to this, who wonders how are they going to make the thing happen that they want to have happen. You've got to keep your eyes and your ears open, and you've got to, like, when you meet the right person, be impressive to them. So, and I'm going to kind of diverge here just for a second, because I always love the idea of people talk about luck. And, the luck is really just whenever you have the experience and you meet up with the right opportunity, and your experience level matches that opportunity, and you have the, I don't know if you want to call it the guts, or you have the foresight, or you understand that this is my chance to make this move. And you might not even know that is the chance to make the big move, but you ask the questions, you put yourself in the right position, you take the opportunity. Like you go into Taiwan, like you took that opportunity. A lot of people would freak out about that, or turn it down, or not take advantage of it while they're there. And I think that's such a huge piece of so many people's lives is you've got to keep your eyes open, you've got to be aware, and you've got to be prepared. And obviously you were prepared, man. You had put in the work to build the beginnings of AssureTech. You had, busted your ass at school. You put things together at school to make yourself very appealing. That when the opportunity came along, you took the opportunity, got the job, and went and did your thing. And then the one thing that could have, been the biggest detriment to your life, which was having that allergic episode in a foreign country, turns out to be like the blessing to have you continue to create this product and make it to the launching phase right now, and now be working for a company that is helping you launch the product, right? I mean, so AssureTech is being produced through Kdan Mobile. Is that right?
Yeah, so we have an app on the market right now that I learned to build over in Taiwan, and we started to build up some momentum, and then Kdan, while I was still working for them, identified it as a valid investment opportunity, and they're an app developer, and so they have all these engineers and designers that were able to take these like seeds of that I was planting and really just dial it up to 10, and that's what's going to be launching in the next couple of weeks here.
And let's talk about that. So let's talk about AssureTech. Let's talk about first, you have the allergic reaction, you have the episode overseas. What did you think when that was happening? How scary was that for you? Because I'm sure you've had allergic reactions in the States, but you are in the United States. People speak your language. You're okay. But so when it comes to the AssureTech app and the translation aspect of it, did you have that thought already in your head? Had you already been working on that part of AssureTech before this all happened, or was that kind of like the incubation period for that, the creation of it?
That was really the catalyst for it. At this point, I had somewhat. I was pretty uncomfortable with the ways I was trying to translate by asking friends and stuff. So I knew I wanted something better, but I wasn't quite sure what to do. When I had the reaction, it was definitely, I remember thinking at the same time it was both really terrifying, certainly, but also really I was very fortunate to be in the place I was when I had it, because again I was at work that morning. It was something in my breakfast that had peanuts. I was surrounded by people that spoke the language, knew me, knew my medical condition, knew where the nearest hospital was. So if it's ever going to happen, that was the circumstances you would want it to be.
Yeah.
And so at that, it was kind of like that balance of those two emotions. And that's what got me thinking, okay, how do we deliver those same support systems, those same circumstances to someone that's not in the position I'm in right now? And that kind of really sparked everything, at least with the translation part of the application.
So let's talk about the application. Let's talk about the AssureTech app. Just putting that thing together. What does that process look like? What does it mean for people in your situation who have allergies? And I have seasonal allergies. I don't have anything severe, and it's got to be such a different life having to go through life with an issue like that, because you've got to be on guard at all times, right? Your life is on guard.
Yeah.
Wherever you go, whatever you do, you're always asking questions, always making sure you're in the right environment. Do you have the kind of allergy where you can't even be near peanuts, like you can't breathe them in, or is it what severity is it?
It's very severe. I can be next to one generally without having a reaction, but if I touch one or eat one, it can get very, very bad very quickly.
Wow. So crazy, man. So how many, in your life, how many reactions did you have like throughout your life? Do you know?
Two really bad ones. The first one when I was 8 months old, that's when we found out that I had the allergy. And then the second one when I was at that point 23, living in Taiwan, with some minor problems here and there along the way, but nothing that sent me to the hospital or two really big ones.
And as far as the app itself, so what has gone into the development of that? Because that's a world that I don't even really know about, man. And the obviously there's so many apps out there. There's a sea of them. How many are in your field? How many allergy testing apps are there like AssureTech? Does that exist anywhere else? Or are you kind of the front runner on that?
So there's a lot of different apps related to food allergies. Some that I'll test, some that do some translation things. So I guess it depends on like which piece of our software that you're looking at. That would kind of tell you how many others there are like it. I think we're going to be the first one that really tries to combine all of these different resources that we've been building up in the community. So that's a big component of it. And then really going into, I like you said, at this point I knew almost nothing about software development. I had studied kind of like I did a lot of work at like kind of like the strategic planning that goes into software. So, the logic that goes into how you would design the features, what needs to be in there. I did extensive market research by reaching out to everyone possible in the food allergy community, sharing surveys, videos, all of these things, like just trying to understand, making sure we had the most valuable features included into this application to deliver the most value. So at that point, that's all I had done. Like it was a lot on the planning side. But when it came time to actually execute and build the application, I was starting from essentially zero. I had taken a couple courses at junior other college. They encourage you to take courses outside your major. So I took a few in the IT world just to get familiar with some of the terminology. And that was really helpful. I didn't realize that at the time. But when I started to research what it would take for me to learn how to build this thing, all of that kind of came back to me and really it ended up paying off more than I ever expected. And so what I would do is I would go home after work, watch tutorials and take notes for a few hours on my phone every night. Get up in the morning after the gym. I would go into work about a half hour before it started, work on because they had nicer computers than the one I had at my apartment. Work on their computer for about a half hour, try to build this thing. Stay in during the 2-hour lunch window. Work on the application for that whole period. Talk to some of the engineers at KDM Mobile, asking for advice, little critiques, anything that they could offer. And then when work was over, I would stay about a half hour, 45 minutes afterwards until they shut the lights out to keep taking advantage of the technology there.
Where does your drive come from to do all that? Because that's discipline that you have to have instilled in you somehow throughout your life. Where do you think that comes from for you? Putting those extra hours in. It's
tough. I mean, I've always been passionate about two big things, and that's helping people, and I really love solving problems. And this certainly is both of those at once. So it's everything I really love, kind of all in one go. So I loved it. It didn't feel like work, and still doesn't. It's really it's what gets me out of bed in the morning.
There you go, man. That's it. Like, it's the thing that gets you out of bed every single morning. That's so huge. And so many of us don't even, a lot of us don't even know what that thing is. What the thing is that would get us out of bed every day. Like, if we could just focus on this one thing and build it from the ground up and have it be our life. We a lot of us don't even ever find out what that thing is. And then to be able to do that every day and to have the opportunities that you had to build that and to be around amazing people that had the technology and the computers to make you to put you at the level you're at right now. Incredible, dude. It's incredible. I love that story because I think aside from how cool this app is and what it's going to do for society, I think I always go back to just somebody who feels like they know what they want to do. They feel like they know what they want in life, or they want to create something that's going to help people. Because I think in the end, we all want to help people. When it comes down to it, and we might not think that, but anytime you're putting something out there into the world, you're if you don't have a buyer, you're not going to have a product, and you're not going to be successful. You're not going to make any money. In order to have that buyer, you've got to help them with something. And to help them with something, it's got to be something that you understand, that connects you to them, that benefits them, and also benefits you as well. And I love the idea of making your mess your message, like taking something that's a mess in your life and turning that into a message that you can put out there to others. And that's what AssureTech is to you. Like, the allergy is your mess, and you've turned that into a message that you can help send out to, millions or billions of people. And I just find that, man, so many people never figure out what that is. So for you to be able to figure out what that is at your age is huge, because think of all the places you can go from here. This is like just the starting point. So I want to just get that point across, that if you're listening to this and you feel like you have something that is like a burning desire inside of you, and you think about it every day and you want to create it, but you never take the steps to create it, just start doing something. Start doing anything that will push you on the way to that path, and you're going to figure it out along the way. But I'm sure, like in your case, if you had to lay out all these steps, you never would have come to this point, right? If you had to lay it out step by step, this wouldn't all be in place like this. There's no way. So talk about the app a little bit. What are all the features? What are the features of AssureTech?
Sure. So the big idea, the upcoming application that we're putting together with KM Mobile, that's going to be called the Epi-Center App. And so the idea is helping people manage their food allergies more effectively, whether it's during an emergency, whether it's traveling, or whether it's just managing on a day-to-day basis. And so that's kind of the whole idea behind it. During an emergency, a person with a food allergy, first step, of course, is administering the epinephrine. That usually comes, most common version is the EpiPen. And there's also the AllDQ and a few others out there that people use. So once you do that, you need to get emergency help. So what we have the app set up to do is send a message to your emergency contacts with your GPS location, telling them, hey, there's something going on. I need help. At the same time, it would be able to help you dial the local emergency number. So in our case here in the States, 911. And one of the concerns certainly with the food allergy is not being able to speak if your throat starts to close up during anaphylactic shock. So we have we're building in a feature that will allow you to play like an audible message on the other end to the transponder that says, your name, what you're allergic to, and your current GPS location, on your behalf. You can't speak. So really trying to help someone get all the resources that they can during an emergency. And we're working with a company now that's going to also include some a number of different translations that can deliver the same message. So really trying to help you get help during that emergency. When you travel, helping people order food, and then trying to connect you to different companies that do like safe to eat foods, for example, like peanut-free chocolate cake, those kinds of things.
Incredible, man. And how does the translation part of that work? Is that translating like sound, like audio language, and also written language? How does that translation work? What do you use?
So the translations, it's delivered by visual, so like it's all in text, and so it's not like taking like it just messages and running it through Google Translate or something like that. Google Translate, I think, does a good job of like helping you figure the gist of things out. Mm-hmm. But if you have a life-threatening condition, you need to be very, very precise. And so we had originally started out working with native speakers. I had a pretty good international network built up. From there, we started working with a professional translation company. And now we're going to be partnering with a medical translation company that specializes in food allergies and dietary restrictions. They wanted to partner with us, and they're going to be providing the translations in this next generation application. So it's very, very precise and really the best way to communicate your condition.
Just incredible, man. I mean, it's next level as far as anybody with this issue. This is going to be a lifesaver for so many people. What is the feedback that you've been getting on the product from people like yourself? I mean, I'm sure you've been doing some like focus group and testing with people who have food allergies. Is that something you've been focusing on, is talking to a lot of people in that world? as far as like people who actually have it?
It's been really, really positive. When I started back as a junior, everything was done online. Facebook had a bunch of different groups for like just dedicated support groups with food allergies. And I would go in, talk about my life, my mission, and what I was trying to do. And the feedback we got from that community was just outstanding. Like the online food allergy community has been such a collaborative partner through this whole process. Everything from just sharing the fears, the concerns, feedback on some of the different ideas I was considering, helping build up what allergens we needed to include translations for so we could cover as many people as humanly possible. I mean, everything. As soon as I go, to any of those different groups, the feedback's great. And when I got the first generation application to market, the downloads and people giving feedback on like kind of like that very first attempt at designing software for this really helped as well. And that momentum and that feedback is what ended up getting us the opportunity to work with K-Dan.
What was your what's been the biggest roadblock? What's been your biggest struggle with all of this?
I think the biggest roadblock up until this point at least was just getting started, because certainly I understood the condition and everything like that, but really the problem I encountered was you can't really start building that product without sufficient funds to hire a technical team. You can't get those funds without investors. You can't get investors without proof of sales or proof of downloads, and you can't get downloads without the product. Mm-hmm. So it was just this loop, and really trying to figure out what something has to give. Whether it's you find a rich relative, whatever the case is, you partner with someone with that technical expertise, but some area of that loop has to break. And so for me, it was that allergic reaction in Taiwan, because from a technical point of view, delivering an effective solution for translations is a lot simpler than trying to get the phone to do these automated calls and automatic text messages. And that was when I was like, okay, hey, this is a problem I might be able to learn to solve if I really, dedicate myself to this. Where some of the other problems were so far beyond anything I could even consider doing, I was kind of stuck. So just something in that loop had to break.
And as far as how many years do you have into this right now? You would say?
About 3.5.
How many man hours?
Oh, gee, I have no idea. I mean, it made up the bulk of my academic work, the second half of my junior year, most of my senior year. It was a big piece of it, and just every spare hour I have since graduating.
I love the fact that, a lot of people go into college, and I'm going to put my hand up in this situation. Like, we waste a lot of time in college just kind of like floating through. Like I said earlier, it's awesome to hear a story of you went there, like you got your money's worth. Most people don't get their money's worth. They come out with a lot of debt and can't even find a job. Man, you came through that thing with a great job, meeting amazing people, and also creating something that you've always wanted to create that's going to help lots of people. That's, if you want a great story for how college can still work, that's a great story. But you can't just sit back and rely on the professors. You can't just sit back and rely on the curriculum and the school to make it happen. Like, this was you making it happen for yourself, along with all the resources. So, college is there like as a resource, just like the rest of life. Like, everything that you stumble upon that could help you move in the right direction, that is a positive resource to help you get where you want to be. But if you're not putting the work in also, like you said, man, you're going into the job before you have to start working to work on this project. You're doing your full day of work, and then you're sticking around afterwards to keep working on it. Like, most people don't have that drive to do that, and I think something I really try to get through, because I didn't have that drive when I was younger either. I didn't have that the what's the word, like the wherewithal to be like, all right, if I want to do the things I want to do, I've got to be working on this whenever other people are partying, when other people are doing whatever. I'm working on this thing, and I'm building it, and I wish, looking back, I could have started it much earlier. But I think that, at least in myself, with my message, is like being able to tell people, like, I've wasted a lot of time, and I can see you only get so much time. It's one thing in life you're never going to get back is time, and you've put yours in to build this thing from a ground level, dude. It's so awesome that you're doing it. It's so awesome that you're at the point you're at right now. It's so cool that it's paying off. It's so cool that you're so close to launching it and having it out there. So when this thing launches, it's going to be like in the App Store. Anybody in the world can download it, right?
Yeah, correct.
And as far as translations go, like, do you have translations for every country or just the major countries, or how does that work?
So right now, the partner we're working with has translations in 47 languages.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah.
And as far as, I wish I knew more about the food allergy community to talk more about it with you, but I imagine this is just so, as the people who know about it now know it's valuable, but as people start to find out about it, talk about something that, what is the percentage, do you know the numbers like in the U.S. of people with food allergies? Do you have those numbers?
Yeah, it's about 10% of the population.
Damn,
so 30 million.
Wow. And worldwide, do you know that number?
32 million. I've seen guesses all over the place. I think there's some areas where they haven't, there might not be sufficient testing. So I think that's a little bit harder. But I've seen, upwards of 200 million. So it's a huge, huge problem. It's
a huge, majorly huge issue. And wow, I can't imagine what this would be like for somebody who has a major food allergy to find out about this app. So that's the next stage, I guess, of what you're doing. Right? You got the app done. You're putting it out. You're launching it. You've got the translation. You've got it all set up so that when somebody has a reaction, they can contact their emergency contacts, contact 911 or whatever the emergency system is in their country. But beyond that, now you have to advertise it and have people find out about it. What does that step look like?
So that's been a very fun process because, I have a real passion for marketing. Up until really about a couple weeks ago, it was almost entirely organic. So really it was reliant on building a strong brand, really just sharing that message, making sure that resonates with all the people that you're trying to help. And so that's been the effort really up until that point. Mm-hmm. And we were fortunate enough after partnering with KDM Mobile to receive funding from Ben Franklin Technology Partners. And we've been starting to put that to work with a pre-launch campaign. And we have another technical partner that we'll work with called Paramark from they're kind of all over the place, but they're based out in Oregon. And so they have a really good team there that's very good with different ad campaigns, but really just trying to help spread that message and reach as many people with the work that we're doing. So it's been a big collaborative effort there as well.
Yeah, and once the people in the food allergy industry find out about this, people who are trying to help solve this problem, once they hear about it, I mean, you won't have to sell it, right? It's going to be like, well, of course we want to help promote that thing. Of course we're going to want to help get it out there.
That's been one of the biggest things too. Like I said, it's all pretty much up until now, all the momentum that created these opportunities for us has come from organic support from the food allergy community. I mean, I've been lucky enough now I have lifelong friends, lifelong connections that I've made in different countries, different states that had, people with food allergies that they see what I'm trying to do, what I'm trying to build. And they've, really stepped up in whatever capacity they're able to just share what we're doing and help create some awareness and gather feedback for us as we go forward. And that's been really just impactful on what we're doing.
Yeah, I think if you meet somebody who watches the same show that you watch or has the same favorite band that you have an immediate connection. When you meet somebody who has a food allergy like you do and is living, your life it's dangerous. It's fragile. You've got to be on alert at all times. So that creates, I imagine, an immediate bond. Even if you don't have similar interests or personality types, that bond itself has to be super strong. Am I right on that? I imagine that connection's huge.
Yeah. If you go on, if you have food allergies and you stumble on any of these different support groups online, people really have each other's back. It's really nice. Whenever I have questions, even outside of what I'm doing professionally, if I have questions hey, I'm kind of worried about this with my food allergy, I'll turn to those groups because the people, they really, if there's something that they have some input on, they'll jump up and try to help you out.
Yeah. just thinking right now off the top of my head. So I don't know if you've ever read this book, Donald Miller, Building a Story Brand. Incredible.
I haven't read it, but I've had it recommended.
Yeah, dude. If you're, trying to build a story around what you're doing, it wouldn't even be hard because you already have the message, you already have the product, like the solution to the problems there. This book would, like, I'm telling you, I'm holding it right now because I've been going through it myself, building a platform for myself, and it's basically just the hero's journey. It's like the simple concept, and it's such a classic, simple concept, is that there's a character who's a hero, right? Which the hero for you would be anybody who has a food allergy. They're the hero in the story. Right. They have a problem, which would be they have a food allergy. They meet a guide, which would be you, which would be your product. That product gives them a plan and calls them into action so that whatever happens to them ends in success and not in failure, which would be talk about the most extreme version of that. The success is staying alive. The failure is dying. So like, wow, that's huge. So I couldn't recommend that book and that whole platform enough for what you're doing. If you're trying to like get the marketing message right and you're trying to figure out how to market this thing, whether you're doing social media or wherever you decide to advertise it, buy that book, man. Go through that program because it is gonna help you to clarify. Because I know you already have your message clarified, like in your head, and when you're talking to people about it. But if you want to like have this thing be fully and easily digestible for anybody out there who has food allergies, or has a mom or dad who has kids with food allergies, or somebody in their family like that, dude, Story Brand would help you so much. So I would suggest that, like, as maybe your next step as you start to ramp up your promotion of this and you ramp up ways of marketing this thing and getting it out there, that will help you to what I found it to do for me is it fast forwarded my process. I'd say it fast forwarded probably it eliminates all the guesswork of how do I market this, how do I talk about it. And I'm not like I'm not getting paid like a sponsorship. I'm just like a huge advocate for the whole brand because it works so well. But it will eliminate all of the questions that you have on how do I market this thing, what do I say, and how do I say it. It'll tell you, it'll walk you through the steps of how exactly you should present it to people out there, because you already have the problem, you already have the solution. You already know who the hero and the character would be, the people you're trying to help, dude. I'm happy for you. And I'm happy for anybody out there who has food allergies. Like, this is going to be a huge step in the right direction. Who else would you say in this world, I don't know if you want to name drop, like who else in your field, in this industry, is a big name who's doing big things right now, trying to help solve the food allergy issues? Not exactly like getting rid of food allergies, because I guess it's a whole different field altogether, but the preventative measures.
So I guess it depends. Preventative measures is all over the place, depending on what you mean.
Yeah.
There's a couple other different like softwares out there that I think are really helpful. There's one called Allergy Eats, which is very similar to like Yelp. So if you're trying to find a restaurant where it's safe for you to eat, I had the chance. I got to meet their CEO Paul a couple months ago.
Cool.
They're doing some really great work. There's another one called Spoken that has just tons of different like resources involved in there too. So I think that's like one of the biggest things, like just being able to find the different support in the community. I think is like the top preventative thing. If the more you know, really, that's what it comes. I think that's such a big part of it. And there's a lot of different like national organizations that spread awareness, raise money for research. Everything like that too. So preventative in that sense.
Is part of your plan with this, like your intention to add more things to this app, like the idea of the Yelp idea of suggesting places where you can go, or suggesting just adding more to it? Do you have plans of expanding this in the future, or are you kind of keeping it self-contained with what it is now?
Oh no, I would definitely like to add as many different collaborative partners as possible. The name of the app really comes from like, Epi-Center. It's this idea of like just being the center of all things related to food allergies. Any resources we can put in someone's hands at once. So if we meet new connections in the community, if we can find some type of way that like it fits in, then we're always trying to like incorporate as many people as possible. I think that's really the ultimate vision for what we're doing, just to keep growing and keep just bring as much to the table as possible.
No doubt, man. Very cool. As we're wrapping up here, I just want to say I love it. I've already said that, but I mean, like, I just think it's really cool what you're doing. Plus, like I said, beyond just what you've created, just your work ethic and your mindset towards this whole thing, I find, because I'm not somebody who falls into the category for the product, but I find just like your work ethic and the way that you've figured this problem out to be amazing. It's incredible. It's really cool to see. And more people need to hear the story of how it's been done and also what it's going to do for society. There's two very important stories there. I think your process is really cool and how it's all come to be. But wrapping up here, first of all, where can they download the app? Where can they get it? If they're listening to this and they need it, where can they get it? I'll put that in the show notes also. And then just anything else you want to throw in that you haven't touched on yet that you feel like you need to talk about.
Yeah, so if you go to Epicenter-App.com, depending on when you're listening to this podcast, you'll be able to go on there and either download the beta version that's available right now or the full version that's going to be coming out in a couple weeks. And you can learn more on the website that way. I think that's the best way to stay connected.
Very cool. Anything else you want to throw in? Anything that I didn't cover that you want to say?
No, all good. Thank you.
Cool. All right, Joey, thanks, man. Thanks for being a part of this.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Rob.
Keep moving forward, man.
This is Rob Z Radio.